Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, where Griff and I are continuing our preview series where we are joined by an expert guest who knows much more than us to look at Seahawks versus Browns, the throwback week. And this is the perfect guest for this game. SB Nation's Mark Schofield. Not only is Mark basically the best guy in the game at quarterbacks and, for this game where the quarterback mystery, it's a really good fit in that sense. But Mark also is a really, really nice guy. Actually gave me my start in the industry and has been beyond kind on numerous occasions, and also provided evidence in a elevator that I am 5'10", which was also nice. So, Mark, what's up?
What's going on, friends? It is great to be here. Oddly enough, my camera just went super blurry, so I'm not doing some like soap opera like film here to like kind of hide my age here. It's just all of a sudden my camera decided to be super blurry. But I'm excited to be here. Maddie, it's been great knowing you and getting to know you over the years. Griffin, been a huge fan of yours for a while now, so it's fun to get to do a show together. Excited to dive in. I wish I came with more answers with respect to the Browns quarterback position, because it's absolute voyage of discovery time. We're recording this on Tuesday night, and we're hearing even more about Watson and his shoulder injury. So who knows if it's going to be Watson, if it's going to be PJ Walker, if it's going to even matter. But yeah, happy to dive into it all.
There you go. So before that, though, Mark, how about Newcastle United? Because that's one thing that we have.
That is common. Another thing
Griff,
that we have.
Griff, you're left out here.
Yeah, I'm the odd man out.
Yeah. What a start to the Champions League season, my friend. I mean, look, the adage, draw on the road, win at home. They've done that so far, but they got a chance to inch even closer to Zoo and Vanson tomorrow. I mean, which is going to be a fantastic match to watch. It's interesting. Like when it looked like they were going to qualify for the Champions League. I had people ask me. I did a show with Neil Dunn and Paul Mainsey. I do a draft show with them every year, Waxing Lyrical. And they asked me, like, when you first hear that Champions League music played at St. James's Park, like, who do you want to see on the other sideline? And at the time, last April, I'm like, I don't care. Like, just let me see some Champions League football at St. James's Park. And then they get drawn into the group of death. And it's like, okay, well, now I do care. Okay. Like, this is not what I wanted. But the fact that, they've now got a realistic shot at advancing, I think is fantastic. It was great to see them live for the first time. Got to finally see them live because they were in Philly, took the family up for that, forced everybody to wear a Newcastle top, which I've got photographic evidence now of my daughter, wearing a St. Maximum jersey. But it's been a fantastic. What do you think, man? Because I'm just loving it.
I love that. I honestly, like, after the PSG game, I wasn't even happy. I just couldn't believe it. Most of my reactions to this, I've just been completely stunned. I mean, I don't know when you started following the team actually, but I'm young enough to not really know what it looks like when they're good. So
yeah, I mean, I started following them like. My favorite sort of Newcastle story is we were in London, and it was the year that got sent down when Shearer came as the caretaker manager right at the end of the season. And I had started following them like a few years prior to that. And so we were there like in April with like 3 weeks left in the season. And I'm in a Sports Direct in Piccadilly, and I'm trying on a Newcastle top. And the kid working there is like, why do you want that one? They're awful, right? They're garbage. And I'm like, no, this is my club. I got to wear it. So I like wore it on the flight home, and people are looking at me like they feel bad. I mean, passports with Pardue is the most joyous part of my Newcastle fandom experience. Like, qualifying for Europa League and slim shot at Champions League play and Alan Pardue and dancing on the sideline and becoming a GIF or a GIF, however you pronounce that. But I mean, this has been something special. Like you said, obviously I wasn't there for that match against PSG. I was just watching it, but I probably sat in my kitchen that night just watching scene after scene after scene on my phone, and the eyes welling up a little bit, and crowd in full voice, and my kids and my wife being like, why is daddy crying? I'm like, everything's fine. It's fine. Getting to St. James's Park is a bucket list thing for me now. Like, I just want to see
you've got
match.
to go. Yeah,
I just want to see one match. Doesn't matter who, what, friendly. I don't care. I just want to be there for one match. But it's been so much fun this year.
No, it is an amazing place, St James's Park. Cathedral on the hill. It really is. Dominates the city, the skyline, even with them building student housing, like a skyscraper near it. And I think with the PSG game as well, on the subject of not being able to believe it, when Shah scored that amazing final goal, that was when I felt relief. I just felt relief because I just thought of 3-1.
It's PSG.
I was like, and it's Newcastle.
This is not going to end. This can't end like this, right? This is going to be some sort of painful experience at the end. But no, it didn't happen. The view did not drop. The one every Newcastle fan was waiting for. It didn't drop.
So, Griff, what do you think to Newcastle? Are you ready for football? I see chat's getting upset.
Yeah, it's a topic I'd love to delve into more with you guys, but we've
we can.
We
have an agenda here.
Yeah, we got time.
Oh, okay, well, good. All right, we can call an audible then. And
okay,
what do you call audibles in the soccer world?
Well, that happens all the time. You see, it's not set plays. It's just free flowing.
Everything's an audible. It's just a 90-minute audible.
Nice. Okay.
How cool does that sound?
Yeah. So it's like an RPO in a constant state of. Okay. All right. I understand soccer now. Got it.
There you go.
Yeah.
So the actual show, Griff. Mark, you wrote a piece on the Browns. You've co-wrote pieces on the Browns at SB Nation. Very entertaining reads. And I know before week 6, when the Browns were 2-2, which is pretty valuable context. Now they're 4-2, but you had them 12th in Super Bowl odds, and you had the offense as kind of maybe a scary factor for that. Having them down, you had Kevin Stefanski on the hot seat. Where are you at with them now? They're 4-2.
I don't think anything's really changed. The offense is still a scary factor, whether it is Deshaun Watson or PJ Walker under center. They've lost Nick Chubb. And certainly, look, they have pieces in the run game and elements that they can lean into in the run game. But this is a bad passing game right now, whether it's Watson or Walker under center. And we can dive into the two quarterbacks and what they've done and how they've played, but it's a bad passing game right now. I think the one thing that they have going for them is they have a tremendous defense. This is a scary defense. It is a defense that, as we've seen the past 2 weeks, can mask at times bad quarterback play. Now, the Colts found some success against this defense, and I think there are things you can do against this defense schematically and, in a sense, philosophically to have success. But it's a very good defense. You have perhaps the defensive player of the year, Myles Garrett, who, I remember back in the day when I was playing and we would have, plays that we had to audible out of and things like that. We would have plays designed where it's like, look, if 77 is doing this, you have to know where he is at all times. You have to know where 75 is at all times. You have to know where 95 is at all times, because he's not always going to be where you expect him to be. They're going to move him around. And so that defense can be scary, and it will cause offenses problems. But it's a bad passing game, a bad quarterback situation that I don't see signs improving anytime soon. And so, yes, they're 4-2, and they have what you might consider a sort of statement win against the San Francisco 49ers. But in a way, that win might have taught us more about the Niners, perhaps, than the Browns. And so are they a good football team? Yes. Can they win this game against Seattle this weekend? Yes. Does their offense scare me? No, it's more their defense that scares me.
There you go.
So weapons-wise, obviously, the first guy you think of is Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
Is he having the kind of season, or is he still the player that a struggling quarterback can lean on with pitch and catch? And he's still bringing that element.
Yeah, I mean, he's so good at separation, Griff. And for a struggling quarterback like Watson, who, as we can talk about in a minute, can't get velocity on throws right now. For a quarterback like PJ Walker that might not have the arm talent to begin with, and at times has been slow on reads, decisions, Cooper's ability to still get separation downfield is such a huge thing for a quarterback, because now it might limit them in the sense that, okay, you've got 3 yards or 5 yards of separation when the ball comes out, and you're just going to get a completion out of it because the ball is going to take a while to get there, and that 3 to 5 yards becomes a step by the time the catch is made. It's still a completion. It's not a situation like Mitchell Trubisky in the years past where 3 to 5 yards of separation becomes minus 1 yard of separation by the time the ball gets there and you get a PBU. So he could still be, Cooper, that kind of security blanket type of player. And, thinking about how you might construct a game plan against him, he's somebody that you're going to want to account for. He's somebody that you might want to do some different things with. You might want to put a time safety help over the top. He's somebody that certainly you're going to want to account for in 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 situations, because that's where QB's eyes are going to go. That's where the quarterback is going to look in those moments. But he's still a very good football player, somebody that whoever is under center is going to look for when they drop back to throw.
Gotcha.
And the guy...
go ahead, Matty. No, all you.
Good old delay. Not the first time.
Well, then how about Elijah Moore? Because he came over from New York. I liked him a lot in the draft process. His career hasn't exactly gotten off the ground the way I thought it would, but also he's had tough quarterback situations.
Yeah. And what's been interesting about the way they've used him, you've seen a lot of manufactured touches for him. You've seen a lot of orbit return swing, orbit jet return swing, like a lot of let's get him the ball quickly. I mean, you look at that game against San Francisco, you look at, this Colts game, for example, they're trying to get him involved, quick touches, manufactured touches, create after the catch, because he is an explosive athlete. And when you watched him in college, as you said, a lot of people, myself included, loved him coming out, thought he was sort of that perfect sort of slot weapon type receiver. It hasn't quite come together due to, poor quarterback play in the past. Mm-hmm. Obviously, an interesting quarterback situation he's in right now. But they're trying. Stefanski is trying to get him some touches, trying to get him some opportunities to just create with the ball in his hands. And when you've got quarterbacks that, for whatever reason, can't push the ball downfield, and you have to find ways to create explosive plays in the pass game, that's a good thing to have. I mean, it hasn't quite always worked for them, but they're still trying it. And that is a good thing because he can deliver that at times.
Yeah, type of stuff you do for a guy who requested a trade like he did as well. You can imagine behind the scenes, he's like, give me the ball.
Exactly. Give me the ball as much as you can. So, okay, fine. Here's a screen. Here's a smoke screen. Here's an orbit return. Like, just go, have fun.
So under center is obviously the big story, and you alluded to that already because it's the big story. And you got, as you mentioned, multiple reports. Tom Pelissero reporting, Adam Schefter reporting today on the type of injury. Cleveland tried to kind of get it out there, I think, as day to day, but that seems unlikely. Now, the official word is that it's via Schefter, a strain of the subcapularis within the rotator cuff, and he continues to have both pain and weakness with movement. In baseball, it would cause pitchers to miss 4 to 6 weeks. And the tape showed there's not even the tape, watching the broadcast or even red zone, he was like shot putting the football. You can't throw the ball. Yeah. Mark, you have a kind of a proximity to this type of injury, don't you?
I do.
Do you have a subcapularis or?
So here's my little quick medical diagnosis, and now the chat's going to really be like, really going to talk about this 46-year-old man's shoulders? Yeah, we're going to talk.
Hey, Mark can sling
because,
it.
Look, I've got a torn labrum in my right shoulder, my throwing shoulder, which dates back to my college days, and in the left, I've got a torn labrum and a torn rotator cuff, both of which require surgery, and I've just kind of said, no, I don't want to have surgery. What does a torn rotator cuff feel? Well, as I said, I have a torn rotator cuff right here. I'm sitting here right now, and it feels like I have a knife in my shoulder, just sitting here. Not even trying to do anything athletic. I try to do something athletic, and it's pain. I try to just sometimes like reach up to grab something off of a shelf, and it's pain. And the main thing, and again, now we'll go to the right shoulder, the throwing shoulder. I coach baseball. I was coaching baseball last night, just trying to throw from home plate back to the pitcher's mound. I was warming up a pitcher. It's an adventure. Every throw is an adventure because over time you're wondering, is the shoulder going to give out? Am I going to feel that excruciating pain with the release here? You start to compensate for it mechanically, which leads to, as you said, Matty, sort of that shot put in where it's like you don't want to extend it because any sort of extension away from your frame hurts a lot. So you keep everything in tighter, which gets to that sort of shot put type of throwing motion. You see, it's clear that he's had this for a while. He's had some sort of shoulder issue for a while, but you certainly saw it against Indianapolis. That first interception where he's flushed and rolling to his right. and you've got 6 yards of separation on a corner route, and he's got all his momentum leading into this throw, and the ball just dies. I mean, it just dies, and he's got a run into this throw, and it just dies. It's been bothering him for a while. There were throws earlier in this season where you could tell the shoulder just was not quite right. So the impact is immediately, it's a loss of velocity. That's the most noticeable thing. And that's, like you said, guys, you can see it on film. You can see it on broadcast. But internally in your mind, it's a lack of confidence. Like, I don't know if I can make this throw. If I try it, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make another throw. You start to compensate for things. You speed yourself up in the pocket as well because you don't want to get hit. Like, it doesn't feel great when you're getting hit and you've got a shoulder injury because you don't, like we saw the hit that eventually knocked him out of the game. You land on that shoulder and it's that feeling of a knife in your shoulder yet again. And so it's a lot for him to deal with. And, you know, I understand that they're listing him as day to day, and maybe he's technically day to day, but day to day with a shoulder injury is different if you're an offensive lineman, if you're a defensive lineman, if, you know, you're playing a position that doesn't task you with throwing a football, that repeated torque of the shoulder. It's a lot to try to play through that.
Yeah. But what is interesting is Watson in your eyes was kind of, well, and everyone's eyes really, but I know you've wrote on it, was struggling. Like, you're a big fan of his coming out of Clemson. Mark is an excellent, as I've said at the start of the show, excellent quarterback talent evaluator. And on your Monday night SB Nation NFL show, you mentioned that before Watson got to Cleveland, when he was in Houston, he was one of your favorite guys to watch NFL tape of as well, and he was top 10 guy there. But then you've said that the fall off was evident before that injury, and you likened it Wentzian, Wilsonian. I like that. So what has happened to him?
Yeah, I mean, look, his final playing season in Houston, I'm not kidding. I would come downstairs Monday morning and he'd be one of the first 3 or 4 quarterbacks I'd watch. Like, doesn't matter what he did, doesn't matter what his numbers were. It was like Mahomes, it was Allen. And yeah, I'm getting myself to some Deshaun Watson film because that last season he played in Houston, I mean, he had it all working for him. I mean, one of the things that I loved about what he was doing that year was underneath defenders. This is why I know we're going to talk about how I thought they could fix him. You know, get into spread, let it be a sort of point guard, distribute the ball, move underneath defenders with his eyes. He was so good at that. Just quick glance, looking somebody off, move that underneath linebacker, move that rat defender, come back and make a throw on time in rhythm. That's just the passing aspect to it. Then you get the athleticism, the ability to create on the move, some of the eye candy stuff that Bill O'Brien would dial up as well, play action and things like that. It was fun to watch each week. Then I don't know if it was the layoff. I don't know if it was the adjustment to what Stefanski wants to do, which is more of your McVay, Shanahan, under center boot action, which, you know, Watson can do, but like, I think he's more comfortable spread, empty and things like that. I don't know if it's the layoff. I don't know if it's the trying to marry the 2 playbooks, the 2 schools of thought. I don't know, but the fall off is precipitous. I mean, even early in the season, he was just laid on reads, laid on throws. And look, he doesn't have the most powerful arm to begin with. I mean, Matty, you and I, we remember the day back in the ITP days when 47 miles per hour dropped at the combine. And I'm sitting there in my kitchen staring at my phone like, all right, this is my QB1 of the draft just ahead of Mahomes. How am I going to face the timeline now? Like he doesn't have a powerful arm, but he was able to compensate with that, with touch, with trajectory, with timing. But when that stuff's gone because he's either not comfortable in the offense, not comfortable with the concepts, not comfortable with whatever, he doesn't have the arm talent to begin with to make that up. Now with an injured shoulder, I mean, it's like 3 steps back, not just 2 or 1 steps back. And so the fall off is precipitous. I don't know. Like I said on the Monday Football Monday show, I mean, I think you almost have to consider just shutting them down and say, look, we're going to roll with PJ Walker in this defense because – you know, we've made the investment we've made. Like, there's no way from getting out from under that. So best thing we can do is get a healthy Deshaun Watson. But then you're talking basically what? The majority of 3 years off at that point? Like, that's a long time away from like game reps.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like a case of he's almost missed so much time already that it's hard to get back to that peak that he had in Houston. And obviously the connection he had with Hopkins, like throwing the back shoulder stuff after like spamming mesh and being able to then extend a tiny bit, it just is weird. And then
he had in Hopkins that security blanket. And I don't know if he's quite gotten there with Cooper, which is weird given everything that I just talked about. I mean, I still remember when, the Cowboys traded for Cooper and you had Dak, who was, and I know Dak's polarized, and goodness gracious, I don't want to wade into the Dak wars right now. But you saw an immediate uptick in completion percentage. And completion percentage is not the be-all and end-all of accuracy and things like that. But when you have that separation and you have a quarterback like Dak that sometimes isn't as precise as he needs to be with ball placement, like it mattered immediately. It hasn't quite clicked between, I don't think, Watson and Cooper yet. And so he doesn't have that sort of relationship. Like third and like I still remember Watson's first start, that like Thursday night game against Cincinnati, where it was like Hopkins is just going to run a curl at the sticks on every single passing play. And you knew that's where the ball was going, and it didn't matter because the two are already on the same page. He doesn't have that. And, you could spam, like you said, Matty's mesh and stuff like that with him, and it's not clicking. The timing is still off. And so I don't know, again, how they get it back, but Cleveland as an organization has to figure that out because of the investment that they've made.
Has Stefanski tried to bridge under center and shotgun via pistol at all?
He's done some of that. I mean, but it's still more like, no, we'll be under center. We'll do some gun stuff. I think, Griff, that's a good idea to bridge that in a way, but they haven't done as much of that as I think, could get that accomplished. Because, you think of guys like Peyton Manning, the Kubiak, versus where Manning wanted to be in the gun. So they went pistol to sort of bridge that.
Right.
It's certainly something I think they could lean into a lot more. I think part of it is he's been in and out of the lineup such that they're like, all right, well, we're just going to have to do what we do here. And so PJ, now they've been creative with some backfield stuff. Like they did some stuff recently, gun with offset eye, kind of like what Seattle's doing, which is creative and fun to watch and fun to study. Right. But I don't think they've bridged that as much as they could.
Yeah, and it's also ironic because we the number one reference point for this type of offense is Kyle Shanahan himself, right?
Yeah,
but he shifted to gun like 3 years ago, just because Jimmy was. I mean, they still do under center, but his under center usage like dropped off by like 15 percentage points in terms of total snap share. Obviously, the type of offense I think Shanahan would run with Watson would be a little bit different than what he's ran with Purdy and Garoppolo, et cetera. But could you foresee Stefanski with a healthy Watson, with a fresh look in the offseason, trying to change the macro structure of what he's doing and kind of abandon, like, we're going to be an under center outside zone Chubb show? Or
I think he's going to have to take a long look at that. I mean, because again, the financials are such that you have to find an answer for the Watson situation. The answer is not going to be found elsewhere at quarterback. Like, you have to make this work. And I think, looking at where Watson is at his best, where he's at his most comfortable, it's more that, look, I'm going to be like I was at Clemson. I'm going to be back in that sort of comfort zone of in the gun, spreading stuff out. Let me be catch and release. Let me be at times, point guard distributor type. Yes, we can condense things and maybe pistol or gun play action looks and things like that, but let him be that quick distributor of the football where he's been at his best.
Right.
Yeah. And it's funny because you were early on this, Mark. You were saying in December of last season that it was figuring out that blend, basically the rest of that season.
And it wasn't, it wasn't clicking back then.
So they should hire you.
No, they shouldn't. Because, I mean, come on, let's be honest. I mean, nobody wants to do that. But you could see it last year. I mean, because this was a bad passing game when he came back. It was a bad passing game when he came back. I don't think the mesh had worked between Stefanski and where he wanted to be and where Watson wanted to be. And so I thought, look, I was relatively optimistic on the Browns coming in because I thought, all right, well, Stefanski will have seen that like short sample size and said, okay, well, this is what we now have to do. This is where we have to take this offense to put him in a position where he's comfortable, get him back into his comfort zone. This is what worked for him in Houston. So that's what we're going to look like. And it didn't quite happen because, as Griff kind of said, look, they're going to be an under center, outside zone, wide zone, boot action team, lean into Chubb, lean into the run game, which I can understand in a sense. It's Nick Chubb, but, we're still. I feel like the worm has somewhat turned, generally speaking, scoring's down, run games being a bit more effective this year. And so maybe the thought was we're going to lead into that, continue to lean into that because that's what we're going to do well. Well, now Chubb's hurt. And so it's not quite the same. And so, I would have thought they would have figured that blend out. They didn't. I would have thought when Chubb went down, they would have maybe moved away and would have forced their hand. It hasn't quite happened. And now you got Watson banged up. Barely throw the ball downfield, and you're thinking, all right, well, we might have to ride this out with PJ Walker and a good defense.
Right.
Yeah, and now Jerome Ford is probably missing this game with an ankle injury, and it's going to be Pierre Strong and Kareem Hunt, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, those are two NFL running backs that are on rosters right now.
They exist.
They
have jobs.
We enter this week of the season. They have jobs.
Good for them.
Yeah.
All right, so. And just a relevant detail, everyone should check out, Mark wrote a piece in week 2, which basically formed the basis of my articles, of my questions on titled Deshaun Watson Struggling, What Can the Browns Do to Fix It, which covers a lot of this. So make sure you read that. It's got good
clips in there. I sort of pulled the punch on that headline. I should have been a bit stronger there, but
you should have said at the end, hire me.
No, I should have basically said, look, this is all different shades of bad right now, and they're easy.
It's bad. It's bad. Hey, but Mark, I clicked it. So
it's good. I'm going to go tell my editors that you clicked it because they were all saying, no, you should write that he's hot garbage. And I'm like, well, I mean, the last time I dove into the Cleveland quarterback wars, I wrote about Baker, and
oh boy,
it was dicey because I was early on how Baker was not the answer, and there were a lot of Browns fans that were not too happy.
But ultimately right.
Yeah, no, never wrong, just early. Never wrong.
There you go. So the other guy, maybe the more likely guy, is PJ Walker, who after lighting up in the XFL, when you were at NFLY, you had a piece, Why the Buzz Around PJ Walker is Real. And I'm wondering, the buzz was definitely real. That article is a good kind of time capsule, actually. But where are you at with him now? Because,
that article is a great time capsule for how QB thirsty we all are. Because now he's played more NFL games, and I don't think the buzz is real. I mean, look, to his credit, they beat the San Francisco 49ers, right? But I rewatched that game this morning. As I said, I did my homework. And his last 8 passing attempts or last 8 dropbacks in the game, which they won, were an incompletion, a check down behind the line of scrimmage where the back had to fight just to get back to the line of scrimmage, a sack for an 11-yard loss, 2 straight incompletions. Then you get that weird, roughness penalty, a defensive hold, and an incompletion. It wasn't, the best performance from PJ Walker. They're trying a lot in the screen game. They're trying a lot in the wide receiver screen, RB screen. When they finally got him sort of going a little bit, it was mirrored everything. It's okay, well, we're not going to go, full field concepts. We're just going to give you mirrored curl flat. And we're going to give you mirror Ohio or mirrored Omaha or mirrored go flat. And we're going to treat you like, Matt Nagy treated Mitchell Trubisky, where it's look, I'm going to give you basically a Madden play. Please figure it out.
With how much football he's played, that surprises me. But I guess
but
he's that kind of mobile type.
They had a play against San Francisco late where they went, tosser with the double slants on the right, backside, because 3-by-1, backside slant. You had Njoku on a seam against a cover 2 look. Njoku is wide open, just absolutely wide open over the middle of the field. And he throws the backside ISO slant. He doesn't want to push it downfield. He'll do it on design. When they dial up 989 or 969 and he's got, it's just vertical routes. He'll throw it then. But he doesn't really want to push the ball downfield unless he absolutely is forced to.
Oh dear. And I'd also think if they could maybe under-center it up a bit more with him, get him out on a bootleg. But I guess the NFL's got pretty good at kind of working out that.
They've tried that too. I mean, they've tried that as well. And it's teams have, and again, I think this is a part of the bigger theme of the NFL this year, is defenses have caught up. I mean, defenses know he's under center right now. And it's 2nd and 7. Maybe I'm the backside, weak side, edge defender here. I'm going to kind of stay home. So I have a feeling he's going to boot my way. And sure enough, there's PJ Walker booting right into the Nick Bosa's lap. And he's got to throw it away or he's going to make a throw under duress. Defenses have like league wide caught up. You're seeing it in red zones. You're seeing it, third down situations. I think in many instances, the league has sort of caught up with what teams try to do.
Do you, as a little tangent here, do you think that we might see a return of pure under center drop back? Just because under center is you're either running zone runs or zone action off of it.
Yeah, I think we might, just because, with the way that the defenses have caught up to things, number one, and with the speed we're seeing up front. I was having a conversation with a dad of one of the kids I coach on Sunday because, he takes an interest in what I do. So he's asking me, like, why is scoring down and things like that. And it's like you're seeing such athletes on the defensive side of the ball where, it used to be you could get horizontal into space because you had athletes to do that. You had, athletes up front that could do that in the zone blocking schemes. You had backs that could then get to the edge. And then when defenses were so worried about that and scrambling to catch up, then you get the boot action off of that. Now teams are, you've got teams like, say, the Cleveland Browns that have two edge rushers in Garrett and Smith that are athletic enough where they can flow in response. They can recover in time. So even if they do cheat down on that, they can get back. And so I think you might see as a way to sort of, stabilize and make it more static, a return to the under center drop back stuff where it's like, okay, well, we're going to stop trying to beat you to the edges and stop trying to beat you out into space. We're going to constrict things a bit. I think you're starting to see more, I don't want to say max protect around the league, but I'd say maybe 6.5 man protection schemes where it's 6 plus a chip, right? Where it's like, look, we're going to sacrifice that tight end getting out quickly to stay home and help because we've got two defensive ends. Every team's got two guys that can get after them. It's not just the days where you've got one and that's where you slide the protection and maybe you chip and release there. You've got to make sure you got both blocked up. And so I think that's a great idea. That's a great point. You might see a return to that under center more static drop back game to sort of condense things. It's like playing chess, in the castle move, right? Where you're just going to form a pocket around our quarterback, keep them protected, and try to then make hay downfield in the passing game.
Yeah. And also defenses seem to just league wide have got better kind of to your point. Everyone's got lighter but good. It used to be a case where they'd get lighter and faster, and the guy out there you wouldn't be able to live in sub package. Now it's very rare you get a bigger. Even the linebackers are 220 pounds now, and they can run 4-5.
I always, and I know you guys do this too. We remind people that it flows up, the schemes, the traits, the players. The coaches, it all flows up. And so, when you've got now all these colleges that are running defenses where you need players in that mold, playing on the second level, playing in the slot. I mean, look, Seattle's got a pretty good one that they just added, who I'm a huge fan of. But when you've got an influx of those kinds of players now, you can start to do that. Whereas, okay, it's like in years past when the Patriots would take Patrick Chung, a true strong safety, and say, you're now hybrid slide linebacker, you're going to be down in the box, but you can't really cover receivers that well. And, maybe you're somewhat inconsistent against the run. Now you're getting guys that are lighter, but still can play extremely well against the run. And so you can stop the run out of these sub packages, but you also can sort of use these players to get after the quarterback. You can use them in a bunch of different ways. And it's made life tougher for offenses now.
So, transitioning to the Cleveland defense, I think it's just worth summarizing data-wise. Cleveland's offense, I've just looked it up, they're 31st in EPA per play. And drop-back-wise, they're the worst team in the league in EPA. And rush EPA, and they should be good at rushing, really. They're 19th, so not a good offense for in terms of EPA. It's a nice kind of summary. Now, defensively, Mark, as an offensive mind, not offense, not
right. Yeah. I understand. I know where you're going.
You're not vulgar.
Yeah, I got you. Good.
How would you deal with Myles Garrett? This is your job application.
See, and this is why nobody should hire me because there are no easy answers here. There are absolutely no easy answers because the problem is, look, Schwartz will move him around. I mean, we all saw it. he's lined up in the A gap doing the Allen Iverson Euro step. Like, how do you game plan for that? Like,
I'd poo myself if I had the center.
I mean, look, if I'm the quarterback and I saw that, like, forget it. Like, it's an absolute like this. I'm retiring on the spot. Like, I'm done. Like, no more. I think this is a fast defense. They can play sideline to sideline extremely well. JOK, I think he got dinged up in the Colts game, but you watch that Niners game and Garrett was obviously fantastic. JOK, I think he knew every single screen that the Niners dialed up. He was like sitting there waiting for it. Like, it was an impressive job of advanced film study that they did in that game. They're fast, they flow, they're athletic. I think one thing that you have to do is sort of counter their speed with your speed in a sense, which isn't so much athletic speed, but playmaking and play decision speed. You're a quarterback, you're Geno Smith this week. You get the ball out quickly. Now, I don't mean it's just quick game. It's just one step from the gun and 3-step if you're going under center. It's just you've got to make smart decisions, quick decisions with the football, neutralize that pass rush with your mind and your decision making. I think that's one thing you have to do. There are times when, like, you're probably going to have to. And I know, look, Seattle's not shy about using multiple tight end packages. Get an extra tight end on the field, and you're helping on 95. Like, we're going to have 2 receiver routes, 3 receiver routes, because there are going to be moments in this game where you're going to have to sacrifice a route downfield for blocking Myles Garrett. You're going to want to make sure you do that. You're going to want to make sure from a pass protection standpoint that if they kick him inside, if they do things inside, if they do some stuff with him in the twist game, you've got to be able to communicate up front. Like when they go, text, when they go, ET on the edge, you've got to call that stuff out. You've got to communicate, because they will loop him inside and they will try to get some free runner situations where now he's not coming off the edge. He's in your face through the A gap. And that is a nightmare scenario. And I know Geno said it wasn't him that said it, in that Aaron Donald moment from earlier in the year, but you get 95 with a full head of steam running your way. That's an oh God moment. Like, it absolutely is. So you've got to be quick with your decisions if you're Geno Smith. You've got to get the ball out quickly. And again, it's not just via quick game. You might run some downfield concepts, but you've got to get the ball out quickly. If it's not there and your check down isn't there, like, throw it away. Like, 2nd and 10 is fine. 2nd and 17, when suddenly you can't feel your legs, that's not fine. So you've got to get the ball out quickly. You've got to punish them when they spot drop into country. Like, they do that at times.
Yeah.
They'll spot drop it to 2, they'll spot drop it to 3, because sometimes Schwartz is like, look, I'll let guys figure it out. That's fine. But when they do, take advantage of those moments, because you watch their game against Pittsburgh, for example. Kenny Pickett had some success when they went spot drop against him. Just, okay, well, I'm going to hit my windows. I'm going to get the ball out. This is something Geno does well anyway. So I think he'll be in a position to do this. But when they do spot drop, like, take advantage of those moments. And the other thing in watching teams that have had success against them, they will make mistakes. Like, they're not a perfect football team. You watch their game against the Titans, some switch releases, some stacks, some bunches, and things like that. You'll get the occasional bust or two. Punish it. Tannehill had a great read where, they get a switch release and both guys went inside, and he just cut his drop short because his eyes were there and got the ball out. Like, come off drops, come off things quickly. You get moments like that, take advantage, punish it. You'll be much better off if you start doing things like that.
Yeah, I have visions of Tyler Lockett catching a corner post against, like, 2 invert or something off, like, a play action max protection. Look, that's how he's made his living for quite a while, or his explosive plays. So there you go.
One note on that point about trying to stall the rush a little bit. One thing that's Waldron's been doing the last 3 weeks, which is really interesting, I can't really figure out why, because it seems somewhat unnecessary, is they're running the ball a lot more on second down, especially out of gun. And I think they're trying to vary their tendency there. And I'm wondering if, and I don't even know if coaches think this far ahead as far as trying to game plan for the future, but I wonder if they're trying to exploit that pretense they're putting out there, because they wanted to play action a lot out of gun against this team, because that's the one thing they've been able to lean on with their injured offensive line, is the offensive line hasn't affected their ability to play action effectively.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, you want to be the good coaches, the good coaching staffs are thinking 3, 4, 5 games ahead. And look, I know your priority in the moment is to win a football game. but you want to be thinking 3, 4, 5 games ahead. If you think about another example of that, look, what was the thing that caught everybody's, film guru eyes when the season began? Dolphins cheat motion, right? Everybody was writing about it. I wrote about it. We all wrote about it. We all talked about it. It was all, oh my God, they're giving Tyreek Hill a head start. This is ridiculous. This isn't the
disgusting.
CFL.
It's cheating.
It's disgusting. It's cheated, whatever. But then they started folding in run elements off of that, right? Because they're showing it, but they had that plan that, look, we're going to start folding in some run elements. And then they're doing some other stuff with it as well. You start breaking your own tendencies as a coach because maybe down the road, like, look, we want to start doing more play action here on 2nd and 7 rather than just running it and getting to 3rd and 2. So, yeah, we'll run it on 2nd and 7 and get to 3rd and 2 so we could set up that play action off of 2nd and 7 down the road. Smart coaching staffs do a very good job at breaking their own tendencies, studying them, breaking their own tendencies, and then using some things early in the year, but knowing that they're going to have some stuff built in off of that for later in the season.
Interesting. Yeah. All right.
Now, I was kind of surprised that the Colts managed to score 38 points, but kind of looking back on it, it was mainly the offense putting the defense in really poor situations, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was it for the most part. I mean, look, something happened last weekend that you can revisit, say, in March, that broke my heart. Mac Jones had a very good game, number one, and Gardner Minshew had a pretty good game against the Cleveland Browns defense. And so when we get to March and the Patriots decide to roll it back with Mac Jones and maybe sign or trade for Gardner Minshew as a plan B, remember this week, because that's probably what I'm going to be living through in March. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it was, look, they made some mistakes, that they put the defense in some bad situations. But I think there are plays to be made against this Browns defense, as good as they are.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for those who don't know, Mark is a big Patriots fan. Used to write for Pat's Pulpit as well. Really good stuff. Now, finally, Mark, you've been very gracious with your time. What's your impression of the Seahawks from afar, given you cover the sport nationally?
I think they're a very good football team. And something that I remind people all the time, we all get so hyper-focused on the team that we watch, the team that we study, the team that we love. We don't often take a step back and look around. Take a step back and look around the NFC right now. Like, we've just seen the Niners drop 2 games. We just saw the Lions get blown out. But the Eagles, they just had a stunning loss to the Jets. Like, the Seahawks are a very good football team. They have an extremely good defense. They have in Witherspoon, this last cornerback class. I loved Witherspoon and I loved Christian Gonzalez. And I thought Christian Gonzalez was built in a lab to play cornerback for Bill Belichick, and he landed in the absolute ideal spot. And I thought Witherspoon was built in a lab to play for Pete Carroll. And here he is. And I wrote about him after that Giants game. And basically, I wrote about him. I stole half of Matty's timeline the moment they drafted Witherspoon till training camp to that game. Because Matty's point about putting good players near the football, it's absolutely right. And see, that's why Matty's an actual coach and not somebody like me that pretends to be one. But
yeah, I get paid loads.
Yeah, but this is a very good football team. It's a very good defense. And look, Geno Smith is a good quarterback. And he's a very good quarterback. His throw, the touchdown to JSN this week, was one of my favorite throws of this past weekend. And I know JSN was wide open. It's a scissors concept. But the ball was coming out before that bust happened, because they were quarter, half, scissors. They both went with the post, breaking to the outside. The ball was already coming out. Geno knew exactly what was going to happen. I know I do a weekly spot in Vancouver every Tuesday, and I know that the completion to Fant on the other sort of deep crossers has been a major talking point. That's the right read and throw on that play.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
we do that with.
It's screenshot scouted, right? Like, we do it all the time. It's like, but yeah, that's great. But look, JSN is wide open over here. Why are we not throwing him?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
That's the read coming open. Like, right. And it was a great throw. Geno is a very good quarterback. I've been, there are some things that they need to improve on offensively. Yeah, red zone percentage, for example. Red zone has been, I know, a talking point around the Seahawks. It's been a talking point around every team. Philly, they were number 3 in touchdown percentage in the red zone last year. They've cratered because defenses, you guys know this, they've gotten better down in the red zone. Like all the like switch stuff and rub stuff and all the things that teams want to do. Defenses now sort of have figured it out. And so offenses are trying to have to adjust down there. Turnovers, you never like turnovers. They've had some turnover problems recently, but this is a very good football team. And again, when you take it a step back and look at the rest of the league, an incredible defense right now. And in this year, in this season, this might be the year to have an incredible defense, because I think with scoring the way it is, with what we're seeing around the league, that's going to be huge for them down the stretch.
Yeah. How
exciting. Thank you, Mark. It's interesting. Every week we've asked to guess that, and now the defense looks real. It's gradually getting even more positive. Obviously, the news that we haven't talked about, maybe we'll in our show on Thursday, is Uchenna Nwosu getting hurt out for the season. That's a big loss.
Yeah, but that is a loss, particularly run game stuff.
Yeah.
But this is a very good defense. And Witherspoon is, especially now that my boy Christian Gonzalez is down for the season, get those defensive rookie of the year votes in now, friends.
There you go. Right, Mark, thank you so much for your time. Yeah. For those who are watching on YouTube, you'll see Mark is wearing an Alpine hat. We haven't even got to talk about his Formula One work, which is really interesting as well. Like, there's not much good F1 content that I've experienced, but Mark's is damn good. So check that out. Check out his SB Nation stuff. Is there anything else you'd like to plug?
I mean, look, just check out the .com. I'd say check me out on X, Twitter, Threads. I mean, I don't even know where I'm supposed to post stuff anymore. It's
man. And it's such a pain in the ass. It takes forever.
It's like I got to post like 3 different sites, like Blue Sky, Mastodon, Post, Threads, X.
You're on Mastodon?
I think so. I don't
You're
even
in
know.
there. You're like doing it all.
I mean, the easiest is just go to sbnation.com. Check out I will plug the Witherspoon piece I wrote, which, as I said, I basically cut and pasted from Maddie. I mean, it's all in there. I even plugged the team that you're coaching. I threw it all in there. So check that out.
Oh, Mark, thank you. I missed that one.
And for those that are F1 fans, look, I told Maddie before we hit record, Maddie is the most important, Mr. Brown that I talked to today. Second is Zach Brown, the CEO of McLaren Racing. I interviewed him. Yes, a CEO of a Formula One team was kind enough to talk to me for 15 minutes about Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, and apparently how much he does not like Aston Martin. So look for that interview coming out soon. But
Spicy.
Guys, this was an absolute blast. Had so much fun. Keep crushing. You guys are the best. I was just honored to come aboard for a night.
Thanks so much. We loved having you. Follow Mark on those apps at Mark Schofield. I think is generally the way to do it. Quite easy. Make sure you follow Griff at CMikeSpinMove. Follow me at Matty F. Brown. If you're watching, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, comment down below. And if you're listening, review, 5-star review, all that good stuff. We'll be back later in the week with our All-22 review. Mark's already kind of done a good job breaking down some of this great Seahawks plays. So we got to up our game, I think. Thank you so much, everyone.
That's right.
And have a good rest of your day, evening, night, morning, whatever. Goodbye.